She stood there, mocking me, telling me I was replaceable. She forgot her underwear before leaving for a work party. A party I wasn't invited because my shabby shoes would embarrass her. The next morning, she expected coffee in bed. What she got was divorce papers and all her things in trash bags on the lawn. This isn't just a story about revenge. It's about finding out your own worth when the person closest to you tries to destroy it. If you love stories about finding strength in the face of betrayal, you're in the right place. Welcome to Inspiration Seeker. Please hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and comment down below. It truly helps the channel, and I love hearing from you all. It was a Friday night. I'd just gotten home from the job site in Charlotte, my hands still rough and cracked from handling timber and tools all day. The smell of sawdust and sweat was practically glued to my skin. I walked into our bedroom, ready for a shower, and there she was, Jennifer, my wife. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at herself in the full-length mirror, turning this way and that. She was wearing a new dress. It was silk, a deep emerald green that must have cost half my paycheck. I didn't even know she'd bought it. She was adjusting the straps, her red hair looking perfect. She was beautiful, I couldn't deny that. But lately, her beauty had started to feel sharp, cold. She bent over to grab her clutch purse from bed, and she did it slowly, deliberately. The dress rode up. She wasn't wearing anything underneath. She knew I was watching. She stood back up, glanced at my reflection in the mirror, and a little smirk played on her lips. "Forgot my undies," she said, her voice light, as if it were a silly, innocent mistake. My heart did that stupid little jump it always did, even though I knew better. "Wow, Jen, you look incredible. Is it okay if I, clean up and join you? I can be ready in 20 minutes. I gestured to my work clothes, the so-called cheap shirt I'd worn for 10 hours straight. She finally turned to face me, her face twisted into that familiar look of pity and annoyance. "Oh, honey." She dragged the word out like it tasted bad. "Sorry, honey, I can't invite you. It's a high-profile corporate event. You just embarrassed me with those shabby shoes and that cheap shirt." She didn't say it angrily. She said it like she was explaining gravity to a child. I just stood there. I didn't know what to say. Before I could find the words, a car horn, a deep, expensive honk, sounded from outside, not my beat-up Ford truck. It was a sleek, black Audi. I'd seen it in the neighborhood before, but never connected it. Her ride. She grabbed her purse and walked past me, not even brushing my arm. She paused at the bedroom door, one hand on the frame. "You're replaceable, Mark." She said it quietly, almost a whisper. "Never forget that." Then she was gone. The front door clicked shut. I just stood there, the silence of the house suddenly feeling 10 times heavier. Replaceable. The word just hung in the air, thick and suffocating. And in that moment, something inside me didn't just break, it hardened. For a long time, I just stood there. The sound of the Audi's engine fading into the distance was the only proof she'd even been there. Replaceable. The word was a splinter, working its way deeper under my skin. I'd felt it for months. I'd seen the little sneers when I came home dirty from a job. I'd noticed how she hit her phone screen when I entered a room. I'd told myself I was crazy. I'd told myself she was just stressed from her high-pressure marketing job. I was a fool. I walked back into the bedroom, not to shower, but to the desk in the corner. Her laptop, her sleek, silver laptop, the one I'd paid for in installments, was sitting there, open. She was usually so careful about locking it. But tonight, in her rush to meet her lover, she'd forgotten. The screen was dark, asleep. I tapped the trackpad. It lit up. No password screen. Her email inbox was open. My heart was hammering against my ribs, so hard it hurt. I felt dirty, like I was the one doing something wrong. But her voice echoed in my head. Replaceable. I didn't have to look far. The top email thread was from Brian, her boss. The subject line was, "This weekend's partied." I clicked it. My hands were shaking. I read, "Reservation confirmed, 8 p.m. tonight. The spa package is all booked, just like you wanted." Her reply, Sent just an hour ago. Perfect. Can't wait. Mark bought the work party. Excuse completely. God, he's so simple. I scrolled down. It wasn't just this weekend. It was emails, messages, pictures, reservations from a hotel in Asheville 2 months ago, a business conference in Atlanta that was actually a U2 concert. And then the messages. They talked about me. They laughed about my simple job. They mocked my truck, my clothes, my paycheck. Brian called me the clueless carpenter. Jennifer called me her starter husband. I felt the blood drain from my face. It wasn't just an affair. It was a long-running, calculated campaign of deceit and humiliation. Every extra shift I'd picked up to pay for her new car, her designer wardrobe, I was funding my own betrayal. The cold dread I felt earlier was gone. It was replaced by something else. Something cold, sharp, and perfectly clear. I wasn't just replaceable. To her, I was a joke, a tool, and you know what? A tool is only useful until it isn't needed. But sometimes the tool decides it's had enough. I sat there, staring at the screen, the glow of her betrayal lighting up my face in the dark room. The anger was there, of course, a hot, sick feeling in my stomach. But beneath it was that ice-cold clarity. This wasn't a mistake. This was a plan. And if she had a plan, I needed to see how deep it went. I minimized the email window. My mind was racing. The money, all those must-have designer bags, the expensive dinners with clients, her new Audi. I'd been working 60-hour weeks, picking up side jobs, trying to build our savings. We were supposed to be putting away a down payment for a better house, something with a real yard. I opened our joint bank account. The balance was shockingly low, far lower than it should have been. I started scrolling through the transaction history. My direct deposits were all there, but there were withdrawals. Big ones. A $1,500 transfer last week. Another $2,000 a week before. And on, every week for the last 6 months. They were all going to the same place, an external account at a different bank. An account number I'd never seen before. An account with one name on it, Jennifer Reynolds. My wife. She hadn't just been cheating on me. She'd been stealing from me. From us. The money I bled for, the future I thought we were building. She was siphoning away into her secret escape fund. I wasn't just her starter husband. I was the bank. I stopped shaking. The rage didn't disappear. It focused. It turned into fuel. I went to the printer in my small home office. I didn't just log out. I started printing. I printed every single email, every hotel reservation, every intimate, mocking message from her and Brian. And then I printed the last 6 months of our joint bank statements, highlighting every single fraudulent transfer she'd made to her private account. The stack of paper grew thick in the tray. It was a complete, undeniable record of her contempt. I looked at the pile of evidence. This wasn't a broken marriage. This was a crime scene. And Jennifer had just handed me all the evidence I needed. I stood in my office, the stack of her betrayal warm from the printer. My hands were steady now. The shaking was gone, replaced by a cold, hard purpose. I picked up my cell phone. It was late, after 10 p.m. on a Friday, but I didn't care. I made 2 calls. The first was to David. David was my friend from college. But more importantly, he was one of the sharpest, meanest divorce lawyers in the state. He picked up on the third ring. Mark, it's late. Everything okay? No, I said, my voice flat. Everything's not okay. I laid it all out. The work party. The boss. The emerald green dress. The replaceable comment. And then the final stroke. The emails, the secret account, the theft. There was a long silence on the other end. When David finally spoke, his voice had lost all its friendliness. It was the voice of a lawyer. Mark, listen to me and listen carefully. This isn't just an affair. She committed financial fraud. Grand larceny. First, the house. It was your inheritance, right? From your parents. Yes, I said. In my name. My name alone. We just never got around to adding her to the deed. Good. David said, a sharp satisfaction in his voice. "You are on a legal fortress. Here is exactly what you're going to do. You are not going to destroy one single thing of hers. You are going to pack everything. And I mean everything." My second call was to a 24-hour locksmith. "Yes, I need an emergency rekey on all external locks at my address. How soon can you be here?" They said an hour. I hung up and went to garage. I didn't get suitcases. I grabbed a box of 55-gallon, black, heavy-duty contractor bags. I walked into her closet. The smell of her expensive perfume, the one I bought her for Christmas, hit me, and for a half second my stomach twisted. I saw the emerald green dress she'd worn, tossed in a heap on the floor. I picked it up, her forgotten underwear still tangled with it. I shoved them both into the first bag. Then I worked like a machine. I didn't get emotional. I just packed. I cleared the rods, the designer dresses, the blouses, the business suits. I went to her shoe rack. So many shoes, half of them I'd never even seen. They all went in. I emptied her side of the bathroom. The expensive makeup, the skin creams, the half-used bottles. Bag after bag. By the time the locksmith arrived, I had 7 massive, black bags lined up in the foyer. I watched him work, the whir of his drill the only sound. He handed me a new set of keys. Keys that were only mine. I dragged the bags onto the front porch, right by the door. Then I went inside, locked a brand-new deadbolt. The solid, heavy thud of the bolt sliding home was the first real peace I'd felt in months. I sat in the dark living room, and I waited for morning. I didn't sleep. I just sat in that old armchair in the living room, watching the black of the sky turn to a bruised purple, then a sick gray dawn. I didn't feel tired. I felt wired. Sometime around 5 a.m., I got up. I took the best shower of my life. I shaved. I put on a new pair of jeans and a clean flannel work shirt, one of my cheap ones. I went to the kitchen and made coffee. Just one mug, strong, black, and mine. I stood by the kitchen window, sipping it, waiting. It was just after 8 a.m. when I heard the car. I looked through the blinds. The black Audi. It idled for a moment, and I saw her lean over the center console, probably for a kiss goodbye. Then she got out, and the car sped away, not even waiting for her to get to the door. She stumbled up the walk, still in that emerald dress, now wrinkled. Her hair was a mess. She looked hungover and sour. She fumbled in her purse for her key. I heard the jangle as she jammed it into the new lock. I heard her grunt in frustration. She tried again. Jiggle, jiggle. "Mark," she yelled, her voice raspy. "You in there? The damn lock is stuck. Open the door." A moment passed, then pounding. Loud, angry. "Mark, open this door. I need coffee and an Advil, for God's sake." I took one last, slow sip of my coffee. I walked to the door. I turned the new deadbolt. The thud of it unlatching was loud in the quiet house. I pulled the door open. She was blinking, her hand raised and knock again. She looked at me, confused. She saw I was showered, dressed, wide awake, and I was holding one mug of coffee. My mug. Her eyes darted past me, expecting to see her cup on the counter. "Expecting your coffee, Jen?" I asked. My voice was quiet, calm. She scoffed, trying to push past me. "Move, Mark. I'm not in the mood for your..." I didn't move. I put a hand flat on the doorframe, blocking her way. "You're not coming in." Her eyes snapped to mine. "What did you say to me?" "Get out of my..." I said. "I interrupted." "You're not coming in." I reached back to the small hall table, where I'd left a thick manila envelope. "You were expecting coffee." I held it out to her. "You got this instead." She snatched it from my hand. "What is this?" "Some stupid apology." She ripped it open. The first page on top was a legal document. I watched her eyes scan the header. "Complaint for absolute divorce." Her face went white. You're divorcing me? Are you insane?" "Over one party." "Oh, it's not just a party." I said. "Keep reading." She pulled the other papers out. Her hands were visibly shaking now. She saw the bank statements with the highlighted transfers. She saw the stack of printed emails, her messages with Brian, the starter husband comments, the clueless carpenter. She looked up at me, her eyes wide with a new kind-of terror. Not anger, pure, cold fear. Mark, wait, you don't understand. Mark, wait, you don't understand. Her voice was high and thin, the pleading tone of a child caught in a lie. But as I just stood there, unmoving, my face set, that pleading look evaporated. The fear in her eyes burned away, replaced by the ugly, familiar rage I'd seen so many times. "You bastard!" she shrieked. The word ripped through the quiet Sunday morning, probably waking half the neighborhood. "You think you can do this? You think you can just lock me out of my own house? I'm calling the police." She fumbled in her clutch purse, her manicured hand shaking as she pulled out her phone. "I'm calling 911. I'm going to tell them you assaulted me. I'll tell them." "Tell them what, Jen?" I asked. My voice was dangerously calm. I didn't raise it. I didn't need to. I just nodded with my head toward the front porch. "You should probably take your things with you when they get here." She stopped dialing. "What?" She followed my gaze, and then she saw them, lined up by the front steps like a dark, grim welcome party. 7 massive, 55-gallon, heavy-duty black contractor bags. The color drained from her face again. "What is that?" she whispered. "That," I said, "is your life. Your designer dresses, your 50 pairs of shoes, your $100 bottle makeup. It's all there. I didn't steal a thing." The insult of it, the sheer indignity, seemed to hit her harder than the divorce papers. You put my things in trash bags." "You can't do this," she screamed, lunging for the door again. "This is my house." "No, Jen, it's not." I stayed right where I was, an immovable object. That's the part you've never understood. This house was my inheritance. It is and always has been in my name and my name alone. As of right now, you are trespassing. I tapped the envelope she was still clutching. "Go ahead and call the police. Please do. I'm sure they'd be fascinated by this." I pointed to the bank statements. "And I'm sure your corporate office will be very interested in your emails with Brian. Let's get everyone involved." Her face crumpled. She had nothing. No angle, no leverage. She was just a woman in last night's party dress, standing on a stranger's porch. She let out a raw, animal sound of pure fury and lunged at me, her hand clawed, aiming for my face. I wasn't a clueless carpenter anymore. I just took half a step back. Her hand swiped through empty air, her momentum carrying her forward. She stumbled, catching her heel on the welcome mat, and almost fell. I looked at her, panting, a mess of rage and cheap champagne. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel sadness. I felt nothing at all. I stepped back inside. Click. I closed the door. Thud. I turned the brand-new deadbolt. The screaming started immediately, muffled by the solid oak. Curses, promises of revenge, and finally desperate, heaving sobs. I walked to the living room window, pulled the blind back an inch, and watched. My neighbor, Mr. Henderson, was on his lawn, pretending to read his newspaper. Across the street, Mrs. Gable was frozen, watering can in hand. Jennifer was on the curb now, pacing, her phone to her ear. I could see her shouting into it, calling Brian, no doubt. A minute later, she was shouting again, probably at his voicemail. He wasn't picking up. Of course he wasn't. She was a liability now. She finally gave up, her shoulders slumped. I watched her sit down on the curb, right next to her new throne. A queen, surrounded by her entire kingdom, all stuffed into 7 black trash bags. I didn't watch her call the expensive Uber, the one she'd have to use to haul away her bags of shame. I had more work to do. I walked back to my office, that thick envelope of evidence. The copies, still in my hand. The originals were already safely in David's possession. David hadn't just been angry on my behalf. He'd been strategic. Mark. He'd said over phone in the early hours of the morning, "These emails, they're more than just proof of an affair. Look at this one. Book the spa package under the R&D budget. They'll never check. And this one, the Atlanta trip is all expensed. We can use the per diem for the concert tickets. Jennifer and Brian hadn't just been laughing at me. They'd been stealing from their own company. The same company that paid for her Audi, her bonuses, her entire sense of superiority. They'd faked expense reports, buried personal luxuries under client accounts, and funneled company money into their affair. I sat down at my computer. I followed David's instructions to the letter. I created a new, anonymous email address. I drafted a simple, professional message. To the members of the board of directors, it read, I am a concerned party. I have come across evidence of significant financial misconduct, specifically embezzlement and fraud, being committed by Mr. Brian Miller and Ms. Jennifer Reynolds. The attached documents provide irrefutable proof. I attached the scans. All of them. The hotel reservations booked as client research. The spa packages expensed as team building. The damning email chains where they plotted it and then bragged about it. I typed in the email addresses for the company's CEO, the CFO, and the head of human resources. David had been busy. I hit send. For the rest of the week, the house was silent. I went to work. I came home. I ate. I slept. It was the most peaceful I'd felt in years. Then, exactly 6 days later, David called. It's done, he said. What's done? I just got a call from her lawyer. A new one, a public defender type. She's hysterical. It seems your anonymous email triggered an immediate, high-priority internal audit. They didn't just look at the emails. They looked at everything. I listened, holding the phone, looking out at my quiet street. Brian was fired on Wednesday. David continued, a grim satisfaction in his voice. Embezzlement, abuse of power, gross misconduct. They're pursuing criminal charges. And Jennifer, she was terminated yesterday. Complicity, fraud, theft. Fired in disgrace. She's lost everything. Mark, her job, her reputation, her 6-figure salary. All gone in less than a week. I thanked him and hung up. I thought I would feel, I don't know, happy? Vindicated? I didn't. I just felt quiet. I thought about her calling me replaceable. It turned out she was the one who could be deleted with a single keystroke. Another 2 weeks went by. Life had settled into a new, quiet rhythm. It was a Saturday. I was in my driveway, where I should have been. I was underneath my old Ford truck, the one she'd always hated, doing an oil change. My shabby shoes were on the pavement next to my head, and my cheap shirt was now streaked with black grease. I was focused, tightening the drain plug, when I heard a sound. Not a car door, just footsteps. Soft, hesitant footsteps on the concrete. Mark. The voice was thin. I almost didn't recognize it. It wasn't the sharp, confident, mocking tone of my wife. It sounded like a ghost. I grabbed my rag, pushed myself out on the creeper, and sat up. There she was, standing at the end of my driveway, on foot. If I hadn't known it was her, I might have walked right past her. The perfect, fiery red hair was dull, tied back in a messy ponytail. She was wearing old jeans and a wrinkled T-shirt I hadn't seen in years. No makeup. Her face was pale and puffy, her eyes red and raw. The designer, the executive, the woman in the emerald dress, was gone. This was just Jen. I didn't say anything. I just sat there on the concrete, wiping the grease from my hands with the rag. Tears immediately welled in her eyes. Mark, please, she whispered. She took a few steps closer, stopping when she realized I wasn't going to meet her halfway. Please, you have to listen to me. I just kept wiping my hands. I made a terrible mistake, she choked out, the tears starting to fall. A horrible mistake. It was Brian. It was all him. He pressured me. He said if I didn't, that he'd make my job difficult. He said all those awful things about you, Mark. Not me. I was scared, and I went along with it. I was so stupid. It was a good performance. I almost might have believed it if I hadn't read the emails where she was the one making the jokes. I've been fired, she sobbed, her voice breaking. They fired me. And my account, the one you found, it's frozen. David's lawyer did that. I have nothing, Mark. I have nowhere to go. No one will even return my calls. She took one more desperate step. Mark, baby, she cried, using that old pet name. It sounded like poison. I never meant it. I was just trying to... I don't know. He was a mistake. Not you. You're not replaceable, Mark. He was. Please, please, I'll do anything. I'll make it right. Just don't do this to me. I have nowhere else to go. She stood there, weeping, waiting for me to say something, to fix it, to be the simple, reliable carpenter she could come back to. I looked at her, then at the black grease on the rag in my hands. I listened to the whole performance. The tears, the choked-up voice, the I was scared defense. It was a masterpiece of manipulation. Maybe the old Mark, the clueless carpenter, would have bought it. He would have felt a pang of guilt, maybe even pity. He would have wanted to fix this, to make the crying stop. But that Mark was gone. He died on the floor of our bedroom, reading those emails. I just sat there on the concrete, looking at the stranger, and all I could see was a lie. I remembered the words she wrote. Starter husband. God, he's so simple. That wasn't fear. That was contempt. I slowly finished, wiping the grease from my hands. I balled the dirty rag up, my knuckles white. Then, slowly I stood up. I was taller than her, and in my dirty work clothes, covering the evidence of the simple job she despised. I felt, for the first time, more powerful than she had ever been. She flinched when I stood, the sobs catching her throat, her act faltering. She was waiting for me to yell, to rage. I didn't. I read the emails, Jen. I said. My voice was quiet, flat. It cut through her fake sobs like a razor. All of them. The ones you wrote. The ones where you called me your starter husband. The ones where you laughed about how easy I was to fool. That was all you, not Brian. The fake tears dried up instantly. Her face, which had been a mask of desperate sadness, hardened. The corner of her mouth twitched. She was caught. You were right about one thing, though, all those weeks ago. I continued. I looked her right in the eye. You stood right there in our bedroom, and you told me, you're replaceable. Never forget that. I held up the greasy, black rag in my hand. I looked at it, then back at her. Then I tossed it. It landed on the pile of old, used truck parts by the side of the garage. A piece of worthless trash. You were just wrong, I said, about which one of us it was. I turned my back on her. Mark, don't you dare walk away from me. Her voice was no longer pleading. It was the old, shrill, entitled shriek. I didn't slow down. I didn't look back. I walked to my front door. You can't just leave me here. You'll regret this, Mark. I put my new key in my new lock. I opened the door. I stepped inside. You're nothing without me, she screamed at my back. I closed the solid oak door. I turned the deadbolt. The heavy thud of the lock, sliding home, was the only answer she would ever get from me. It was a final word. The divorce was not a fight. It was a demolition. Jennifer showed up in court with a public defender who looked overwhelmed. David, on the other hand, was a shark. He didn't just present the case. He laid out an execution. He presented the bank statements, the itemized list of every dollar she had siphoned away. He presented the printed emails, not just of the affair, but the intent to defraud me. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, read through the evidence with a deepening frown. Jennifer tried to cry. She tried to play the victim, throwing out wild accusations about me. But the paper trail was undeniable. The judge's ruling was swift and brutal. Given the overwhelming evidence of financial infidelity, she said, her voice echoing in the courtroom, and the malicious nature of the deceit, this court finds heavily in favor of Mr. Reynolds. Jennifer got nothing, not a cent of alimony. The house, being my sole inherited property, was confirmed as mine, free and clear. And the final nail. The judge signed a judgment against Jennifer, ordering her to pay back every single dollar she had stolen from our joint account. She left the courtroom not just divorced, but in massive debt. That was 6 months ago. I'm sipping coffee, but I'm not in the old house. I sold it. I sold the place that held all those cold memories. I took the money, combined it with the earnings from my booming business. It turns out when you're not supporting a secret life, you save a lot. And I bought a small 2-story brick building on the industrial side of town. Downstairs is my new workshop. It's 3 times the size of my old garage, filled with the best tools, all paid for in cash. Upstairs is a small, clean apartment with exposed brick and a view of the city skyline. It's all mine. I'm my own boss. I'm debt-free. I'm standing by the window, my mug in hand, wearing my cheap flannel shirt. I can hear the hum of my saws from the workshop below, where I've got 2 new guys on payroll. I look at my hands. They're still rough. They're still the hands of a carpenter. I think about her last word to me. Replaceable. I take another sip of coffee. She was right. I did replace her. I replaced her with peace. I replaced her lies with my truth. I replaced the betrayal with my own success, built with my own 2 hands. And I realized, as the morning sun hit my face, that I was finally, truly, and completely irreplaceable.